Welcome to the All Ambient podcast, where we dig into the creative process, hear untold stories, and explore the brilliant minds behind some of the finest ambient music out there. I'm your host, Mike Graff. I'm excited to be in this together with you. Let's get going. All right, friends, once again, here we are with another roundtable episode. I had a lot of fun digging in with Ben and Kirk on the subject of merch. We talked a lot about artists, merchandise, a lot of unique things that we covered. It really was an encouraging conversation and an eye-opening conversation about the wider world of what it is to engage with the people who are into your music, ways to further that artist fan connection. And yeah, I wasn't quite expecting it to go where it did, but I mean that in the best way. It was just great. Hope you enjoy it. Here is the 4th edition of the All Ambient Roundtable. Well, everybody, welcome to another round of the All Ambient Roundtable. I am joined by some of the best and brightest in the biz. So grateful to be here together with Kirk Smith and Ben Tatlow. Hello, gentlemen. How are we doing today?
Doing well. Doing well.
Good.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Awesome. Ben, I feel like I've got something to say about what you're wearing just about every time we do this, but you are bringing the fashion right now. You are decked out in some lovely holiday apparel, and I am here for it. Well done.
Keeping it festive. It is purely functional. It has been very, very cold here in Hong Kong, and this is genuinely my warmest sweater, so we're going with it.
There you go. I love it. Well, guys, I'm really glad that we're here together. It's been a bit of a miscellaneous kind of season for me. Coming up around the end of the year, and I know we've talked about our year rhythms and all that, but I haven't launched into a bunch of deep weeds creative stuff. I've just been kind of cleaning up a lot of loose ends, which feels really good to clean up a lot of loose ends, like according to my checklist and all that. Like, okay, no, I'm done with that. Done thinking about that. But my soul is just starting to crave getting back into things. And so I'm very much grateful for the season and all that, but I can't wait to crank it up and get some really cool stuff rolling come the turn of the year and into quarter 1 and quarter 2. And it's going to be a lot of fun. So all that to say, to be here with some brilliant minds in the creative space, this is cathartic. This is healthy. I'm so stoked to be here. And thank you guys for making it happen as always.
100%.
Yeah, we're excited for what's to come.
Oh man, anything new with the world of music, the world of life, the world of anything? What's been going on with you two?
I've been trying to get my practice rhythms in order. Yeah, I'm really trying to focus on practicing instruments, but I want to learn every instrument, and so that makes it hard.
What are your top 5, or what are you how are you doing it? Yeah.
I'm doing harmonica and the mouth harp and spoons, and I'm learning to play the bones. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, hold the phone. I want to hear the list for sure. I recorded an interview with Christopher Galovan this morning, which was awesome. He's he's such a welcome presence to everyone here. But he literally, one of his first musical memories was one of his parents handing him a harmonica and him just like trying to figure it out. And like, I can make noise with this thing. And so that's so surreal that he's like, I kind of just want to play the harmonica with all my energy and just do that for life. So,
oh my goodness. Yeah. My first harmonica memory was my dad telling me to stop playing the harmonica. he's like, knock it off.
Oh, that's funny.
That's great. Yeah. Oh, no, I mean, okay, so I'm trying to focus. I'm trying to focus on piano, bass, and guitar. Kind of like those are the big 3. And honestly, I mean, the bass is become my favorite instrument. It really is. It's just you grab it, you play one note at a time, and you're automatically playing music. You're doing rhythm, you're doing harmony, groove. It's just like, it's so rewarding. And so I'm trying to learn the fretboard, which is pretty methodical for me because the fretboard is still kind of invisible to me because I see a piano. I don't see the stuff on the frets. So I'm learning the fretboard on the bass. I'm trying to recut some of my jazz chords. So like major 9s and dominant 13s and all these kind of stuff, and trying to take that around the circle of fourths. And then I'm trying to do guitar things, and it's just good. It's so slow. It's so slow. So I'm just trying to like create a rhythm that is like, I actually am moving in a forward direction in these different things, but I don't get so obsessed with it that I don't actually write. Because it's a great, practicing is a great way to procrastinate not writing music.
Yeah, it's true.
So I just, so it's like, I'm going to set a timer, do my thing. So I'm hopefully in this new year, I have a nice rhythm of balance of practice and production. That's kind of one of my main goals.
I love that, man. What a small world that you and I are kind of running a very similar parallel there. Bass was one of my first loves way back in the day, and I've come back around to it. There have been some opportunities just at our church and whatnot. A dear friend of mine, I think I may have mentioned something about this at the last one, but a great bassist guy who spent years and years at our church moved to Nashville, and he's a session player now and is out touring and stuff. But he left a big hole to fill. And so kind of by default, I was like, well, I can pick some of that back up. But in so doing, like I've just launched back into the, there is something so sweet about that instrument. Like it is so foundational, and you really have the ability to move a lot of the way that everything feels by that one instrument. It commands more than I think a lot of people really understand. And I've really had fun with it. It's so cool, dude. We're going to be bass dads together.
Bass buddies.
I love it. Yeah. Yes. Well, okay. So let's geek for what kind of bass are you playing? What's your rig?
It's a Fender something, it's green.
Yeah.
No, it's a
green. Yeah. Is it the P, the J?
It's a jazz. Yeah. A friend of mine sold it to me, and I love it.
Very cool.
It's funny because I've tried to play other basses, and I'm like, actually, this one actually sounds really good. I never know because it's the only one I've ever had, but I actually really like it.
Are you a 4-string guy, a 5-string?
4 strings. Okay, 4 strings is 2 strings more than you actually need, is the way I look at
it. Oh, that's awesome. Man, be the guy who starts the 2-string bass company. Be that guy.
I could show you. I don't know where it is. I have a 1-string.
That would be so cool. Yeah, what a niche.
I have a 1-string bass with it's made out of an old cigar box.
For real?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's cool.
This guy in town makes them, but I like a 4-string.
Send me a link. Holy cow. That's so cool. Awesome. I will shamelessly plug my bass. My buddy Jim makes instruments over at Glory Guitars, gloryguitars.com. And if you've ever listened to Dear Gravity, you've got a custom jazz master from him. And this new season, I've been doing a lot of tone tweaking with, I have a custom, like a thin line telly body from him too, which is it's bright pink. I call it the strawberry milkshake. It is awesome. But the bass that is built by him, it's like a Fender P bass, but then it's got another pickup, like a TV Jones pickup down low. So you can either just run the P bass style sound, or you can run the TV Jones pickup into the P. So it just gives it this extra like bite. It's so cool, effortlessly cool. I am instantly a cooler person by putting that thing on, because I need every bit of help I can get there. Oh, dude, that's so fun. We're bass buddies. That's awesome.
Love it.
Ben, join the club. You want to pick up a bass, pick up something, and we'll find our new niche, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, bass is not really, I've dabbled obviously like most people, but bass and even guitar, like play a little bit, but it's never been kind of an instrument I've focused on. I'm more piano and just honestly kind of sound creation stuff. Like way back I used to play loads of drums, so like drummer by kind of trade, if you like.
For real.
So
dude,
I'm always
okay. And I know, and our buddy Marshall, who has joined us on several roundtables, and he'll be back, he does a lot of drumming as well. Man, maybe we just need to like start creating these alter ego rhythm sections. Like we got Ben on drums and Kirk on bass and Marshall on drums and Mike on bass, and we're
a double bass, double drum band.
Yes. We'd be so dumb and so awesome all at the same time.
That's great.
Pure nonsense.
It's just perfect for all ambient as well. I just feel like this is
totally.
The space it
that's the right lane.
It fits all the metadata requirements. That's great. That's awesome. Okay, while we're talking gear for a second, I just saw this, and maybe you guys are aware of this, but Cephas, our buddy Cephas Azaria, just posted recently, and maybe I just noticed it, and he's posted it for a while, but he's posted about, have you guys seen this like modular, almost travel upright piano that Keybird makes? Have you guys seen this yet?
Mm-mm.
I only saw his post. That was the first.
Okay, did you watch the whole thing though? Like the video?
I watched whatever Instagram
showed
me.
Yeah, man, like I'm trying to not get gear envy right now. Like I've got a particular space in my studio that is like perfect for that thing. And I've been recently kind of dabbling around with a lot of different piano plugins and really happy with a lot of the sample libraries and all that. And I love, swapping stuff in and out. But I mean, you guys know as well as I do, when you're sitting down at a real instrument, there is just a different level of connection that there can be, whether you're capturing with that or not. And my space downstairs, there's a lot of, like in my studio, you have to kind of like go down a stairwell and there's a turn here and there's a hall there, and there's no way that I'd ever be able to fit an actual like upright piano in here. But to have a scaled like 69 key upright piano that they build in a bar where you can do your felts and your different fabrics and all that, you can literally like, okay, here the key bed, I'll just pull the key bed out and walk that down separate, and then here's the harp, and then throw the harp. It is this crazy piece of engineering that I absolutely adore, and I'm trying to figure out when I'm gonna buy it next year, because it is so cool. Maybe sooner rather than later. I'm working on some piano strings versions of some stuff that I'm releasing later in the year. So maybe this is the time. Maybe this is the reason, the excuse. I don't know. But anyway, go check. I think it's Keybird.
Or
just look up Cephas's profile and you'll find it. But it's really cool.
It looks very good.
I'm curious to what you guys will think of it when you see it. But yeah, very cool. Not cheap. They make them in Denmark and they ship them all from Denmark. So I was aware of the price and it was like, okay, cool. Like this is the price. But then to realize that it would wind up costing about another $900 US to ship it. I was like, okay, well, we'll see how long that deters me from saying no to this thing. But anyway. Yeah.
Thing looks crazy.
Oh, are you looking at it right now?
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah, it's
crazy looking.
There's a couple options, and I think one of the options is that you can have them install MIDI into it as well. So you can not only like track, like that, but you can also have it send the MIDI information.
I was just thinking, I was like, man, if they added that.
Yeah, I think it was an extra like $150 or something to add that on. I was
totally.
Like, yep, done.
Yeah,
done.
Totally.
Well, guys, we do have some stuff to talk about today, but before we get there, I did want to do some of our segment stuff, and I do have a new segment idea for tonight. Ooh, so we'll see if it passes the cool test or not. If you guys think that it is ridiculous, or if you think that it's awesome, or something in between. Before we get to our segments, if you have any questions for anyone in the All Ambient Roundtable, or just anything that you'd like us to talk about, I mean, we've got our own ideas, but we certainly would love to hear from you about just some different topics that you're interested in and would like our perhaps not necessarily intelligent take on them, but at least an honest take on them. Please feel free to email us at podcast@all-ambient.com. That's podcast@all-ambient.com. And we'd love to hear from you. Well, guys, you know what's coming. We're going to do the segment that you are aware of first, but it is time for What Song? So I'm going to pop up on my Spotify. I hope you do this. Ben is already shaking his head.
Yeah, I forgot about this. I have not even observed my Spotify.
Oh, that makes me so happy. We're going to get caught red-handed more often than that. It's good. But yeah, Ben, why don't we just rip the Band-Aid off right now? Ben, what song is queued up in your streaming platform right now? What is it, man? Let's hear it.
It's a good one. It's not one I know well. On a album called Sakura in Retrospect 2023, and it's the first track, Island by Deeparture, Moana, and WLHELMINA, maybe.
Ooh.
Yeah. So a bit of, I guess, backstory to this. Anita, my wife, she has released a couple of tracks on Sakura. She's on this album, kind of later down.
How convenient.
Yes, exactly. So hence she messaged me and be like, hey, have you seen I'm on this? She didn't realize it's kind of like an end of year compilation thing. And I was like, oh, I'll check it out. Press play. And then I guess 35 seconds into it, I paused it and did something else. But it is good. I like their releases. Sakura, great label.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
I love it.
And at least you passed the 35-second mark, so that's good.
I did.
And
I will continue listening. This is it's always good stuff.
I always there are times when I'm listening to something that I like, but I'm like, I have to move on to do something else. But I don't want to mess up their algorithm, by pausing or skipping or something. So I'll literally I'll turn it down on the Spotify thing so that it keeps playing. I'm trying to extend goodwill towards the universe with skipping people that I like, or even if it's a small artist and I'm like, these guys, I like their music, and so I'm not gonna skip it because I don't want to put salt on their algorithm. It's just really funny.
It's very real. It's the world we live in. For sure.
You want to know a fun thing you can do on SoundCloud, which I have kind of tried and essentially proven over the years, which is and I've mainly done this with our own releases, but if you publish a track and kind of like it, obviously play it, and then, repost on a couple of other profiles, and basically leave it playing. So just allow the algorithm to keep going, maybe on 3 profiles for, a couple of hours. You can just mute it. It always does really well. Because SoundCloud obviously think, hey, they listened to this first and then they kept listening and it kept going for it. And I'm like, all right, if this is the formula, then
my goodness.
There you go.
That's right. Release day.
Ben, we're riding that shaky moral ground right there.
Well, it's
man.
it's what they... It's like what they used to do. They used to have groups of people call the radio stations,
Yeah. Yep.
And it's just, you create a demand. And so now you're just trying to get your folks to play it and share it. It's just the same.
Yeah, there's no shame in that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's outside of the music world, but my 2 sons are very into basketball. My wife, I've never followed basketball in my life. My wife has never followed basketball in my life. My 12-year-old and my 8-year-old, about 2 years ago, it is as though they drank something of Kool-Aid and all of a sudden it was like, bam, I am a basketball fan. It was crazy.
That's hilarious.
So we have become, as a family, we've become basketball fans because I want to love on those boys for sure. And we live, we're only 20 minutes away from the local NBA team, which is great. But that local NBA, we have been getting poked by them daily about, hey, make sure you vote for our guys for the NBA All-Stars. Every day, vote. And on these days, it counts 3 times. And on these days, and there was a part of me that was like, that's kind of annoying. And then there was another part of me that was like, you know what? All they're doing is they're saying, hey, if you're into this, just support this in the way that you can. And so, I think there is something kind of cool about that. Ben, you open up all those profiles and you stream those songs to your heart's content, or really, it doesn't really matter what your heart thinks because you just muted them all and it's just going in the background. But the goodwill that you are offering into the world, that's it. It's awesome.
Love it.
There we go.
Okay. Kirk, it's your turn.
Yes.
Do you want me to go? I'll give you the option. Do you want to?
No, I'm fine. I'm fine. It's pretty obscure and random. I was basically...
Is it more obscure than Michael McDonald?
No.
Because that was a win. Dude.
Yeah, that was a good first out of the gate. No, I guess this is more predictable. I was literally listening to some lo-fi beats while I was clearing up my inbox before I left the office, Yeah. Because I can't listen to music with words and do anything productive. I can barely listen to music, honestly, and do anything productive because I just get distracted. And I'm like, I need to find out the BPM of this song, and I need to find out what are they doing? So this is a track called Downhill Flow by Galva-Nice. Nice. Oh, I get it now. Galvanize, but it's spelled Galva-Nice, but it's Galvanize. I see what they did there. Well done.
There's a dad joke in the middle of their moniker name. That's awesome.
I like them more.
They have won my respect. Yeah. Love some lo-fi. I was listening to your lo-fi last time, I think.
Yes, I appreciated that.
Spinning that stuff. This week, this is actually, it is maybe another predictable one, but I did the interview with Christopher Galovan earlier today. And so I have Silentium released by Chris. The cello version of Silentium was in line for listening about half the way through it. And Chris has been doing a lot of these piano sessions and cello versions and I think that it's really cool. Like we were talking a little bit about it today, but the idea of, there is the opportunity for, hey, this can help out people who are looking for this type of music for their project or this, like if one were to maybe kind of hit more of the neoclassical genre, the solo piano or whatever, but also like he's done a really good job of having each new version feel like its own creative piece. Like it doesn't just feel like, okay, I whittled off a little bit and there it is and it's the same thing. Like it feels like it's got its own signature flavor. Like there's something about it that you notice. You're like, oh, I'm glad that this version exists. And so I was into it. Yeah, it was fun.
It's cool. I love his stuff.
Okay, you guys, we are going to try out, before we get into the main dish for the episode, I do want to try out one other segment or one other game, if you will. And I don't even know maybe you guys can help me figure out a name for this. But what we're going to do is I thought it would be fun, and it's kind of random. The list that is generated will always be random, but then we get to vote on this. And I'm going to do it this first time. I'll kind of set up the rules and I'm going to do it. And then I think we'll just kind of pass the buck around the room. So here's kind of the party game that has been invented for the All Ambient podcast. But here we go. So on the date of recording right now, we're near the end of December. So as you guys know, the Billboard.com, Billboard tracks, the top 40 releases and all that stuff. Billboard has been doing so for a very long time, decades and decades. And I don't know the exact date, but what I did is I was like, okay, so let's just look at what the charts looked like on this week in some year. So then I just grabbed like a random number generator. It was like, minimum, I think I put like 1950. I guess, again, I don't know how back Billboard goes. I'll figure that out. But then, highest number could be like this year. And so it generated 1997 was the number that it generated. So then I pulled up a list, the US top 40 singles for this week in December 1997. So that has happened. That has happened. And what we're going to do is of this, I've got the top 20. I am going to pick 3 songs from this list. And I'm kind of turning it into like, I don't know if it's like Desert Island or something like that, but it's like if you could only pick one of these 3 songs to continue to exist in the world, like what would it be? Is there some kind of story behind it, or just about the artist, or if there is a song that perhaps maybe not a great memory with and you just want to make sure does it make the top 3 or whatever. But yeah, so all that to say, whatever date that we're recording the podcast, generate a random year, grab the list, then we'll just nominate somebody to pick the top, pick 3 songs from that list. And we will all get to have our own little story on which one of those 3 we want to make sure makes the cut. So there we go. Maybe Desert Island. I don't know. Maybe top 40 nonsense. I don't know. Well, I'll let you guys brainstorm. You'll figure it out. Does this sound ridiculous, or is this like, okay, this might actually be kind of fun?
It could be fun. I'm trying to see how it all plays out.
That was just like
I'll let you know.
silence.
I'll let you know if it's fun after.
How can I say this to Mike without completely crushing his spirit? No, we're okay. So
yeah, we'll judge it afterwards. Great.
Here we go. Yep. Okay. So I'm doing a little look down the list. So you get to, there are some winners on this list. Holy cow. Okay. Of the top 40 singles for the week technically ending December 27th, 1997, you only get to save one of these 3 songs. The other 2 are going to disappear forever. What is the one song that you want to make sure survives? And the 3 songs, it's going to be so good. The 3 songs that I am launching into the world for you. Coming in at number 3 would be You Make Me Wanna by none other than Usher, which, if I'm not mistaken, I think that was Usher's first single ever. And holy cow, that was 26 years ago. That's wild. Okay, so number 1, Usher, You Make Me Wanna. Number 2, Tub Thumping by Chumbawamba, which was number 11 on the top 40 singles list. And number 3 is, and coming in at number 18, Spice Up Your Life by the Spice Girls. There we go. Those are my 3 songs that I am nominated. You get to pick one of those 3 that will continue to live on for all of eternity. And go. Kirk, I nominate you first because Ben went first on the What Song game.
Okay, that's fair. I feel like I only know one song from Chumbawamba, and that's
probably this one.
Is that the I Get Knocked Down song?
You better believe it, man. 100%.
Okay, well then that's gotta win. I mean, that just has to win. I mean, Usher had plenty of other hits, and the Spice Girls are fine. They'll be fine. They'll be okay if that song didn't make it. But man, Chumbawamba, that's their legacy. It needs to live on forever.
There you go. I love it.
What is the name of the song?
The song is called Tub Thumping. Tub like bathtub.
Yeah.
Tub Thumping.
Is it really? Yep. That's the song? That's what they named it?
That is 100%
That's a bad
what they
name
named
for the
it.
song.
Yep.
Yeah, and it still did. Yeah. It's like
it blew.
It still did well with a bad song title.
Yeah. Oh man. Yep. That's, back in the day when it was like the equivalent of, 1950s television where it was like, this had 43.7 million viewers. It's like, well, yeah, because there are only 3 stations. So it was either I'm going to watch this or I'm not going to watch TV, period. So the radio back in those days, like it was very much a captive audience. And yeah, way to go.
I mean, every part of that song was a hook. That's the thing though. It's like every single part of that song was a hook.
Yeah, especially the trumpet solo, baby. Yeah, that's a good call. I'm with you.
Yeah.
Ben?
I mean, I can't really disagree with that, to be honest. You probably want me to do a hot take with, British, got to push the Spice Girls out there, but I don't know. I'm happy for that song to be cast away, and I'll be honest, I'll go with Chumbawamba as well.
That's funny. Chumbawamba. There you go. I'm going to go left of center just a little bit. I am going to vote for Spice Up Your Life, the Spice Girls. Why would I do that? 2 reasons. Number 1, and the much more important reason, is that the Spice Girls is that land of, the manufactured singing group and trying to hit, here's this person who's going to appeal to these people. It was very much that. And the very first single, Wannabe, like they kind of had their lane and it felt like girl pop for sure. But then Spice Up Your Life, like it had kind of that, there was some Latin influence to it and it had like like the syncopated vibe. And I was like, okay, it's different enough from what they were doing. I was like, good for you. Like you did something that was actually kind of cool. So total guilty pleasure. Like I kind of liked the song for sure. But then multiply that by the fact that Ginger Spice, Jerry Halliwell, went on to marry the team principal for Red Bull Racing Formula One. So she shows up in the Formula One documentary on Netflix all the time. And it was like, hey, it's Ginger Spice. That's awesome. So and Red Bull's my team. I adore Red Bull. And so maybe just that alone has softened my heart a little bit to looking with rose-colored glasses on the Spice Girls past. I don't know. We'll see. But there we go. Man, what a banger of a top 40 list, though. Holy cow. I mean, their number 1, fun fact, was Candle in the Wind by Elton John, of course. But man, I mean, there's, All About the Benjamins by Puff Daddy. Oh, man. I mean, Hanson was on the list.
Yes.
This is legit. And it was there was still some big winners. That's crazy. Well, I think that might end up being kind of a fun segment. Maybe we'll hone it in a little bit, but I think it'll be fun, especially when the years surprise us a little bit. Like when all of a sudden, 1972 shows up and some stuff from that. Personally, I love hearing how people resonate with different music, and it always surprises me a little bit when someone who I would think is totally into something is not into something, or somebody who I totally would, when they say like, oh, I'm so into this, and it's just kind of a surprise. You're like, whoa, really? it continues to make me smile. Not only how unique music is, but how unique we are in the things that we just find cool and that we find pleasing, like, wow, I love that song. And so, yeah, I think there's probably going to be some random fun stories that might start showing up as we explore the Billboard Top 40 from years past. But anyway, we'll see. Did that get like a total 2 thumbs down from you guys? If let me workshop it a little bit, but do you think we could have some fun with that?
I think it could be fun.
I think it's good.
You
cool.
call it yesteryear.
Yesteryear. Man, you are a
songs of yesteryear.
I like it. Yesteryear. So good. So good. Well, guys, I wanted to explore something that it's funny because I think it's something that I want to explore for maybe different reasons than what others would typically talk about this lane. And I think there are a lot of people who would perhaps dig it, and not that this is a poor reason to do so, but a lot of people would perhaps talk about this lane in the sense of how can I earn more income as an artist doing this thing or that thing. And really, I kind of want to come at this in more of the angle of like, how can decisions in this department really support the art overall? Like, can there be unique and creative things done in this lane that wind up serving the bigger picture, making everything that much cooler? And I am referring to the world of merch. The world of merch is something that I am simultaneously excited about and also kind of scared about, if we're being honest. Like, I think there's fear and trepidation in me in the sense of trying stuff that doesn't work, in the sense of like, hey, do a thing, commit to this print, and all of a sudden I've got a garage full of stuff that I thought a lot of people would like and they don't like, and all that. And we can explore all the different stuff, but ultimately getting past some of those things, I'm really curious what you guys think about exploring that world and maybe some of the good things that have happened in your journey, or some of the things that you've seen that are pretty cool, and also some of the things that maybe you're just like, oh, heck no, I'm not going after that. But in as much as I want to keep things simple as an artist, and I love that, royalties and, licensing, streaming, all that, like it's great. They just show up in the bank account. Like that's wonderful. And I'm not having to ship things to people and this and that. I also know that whenever, like some of my favorite artists, when they release something special, like a unique vinyl or whatnot, and how often do I sit down with vinyl? But I see something like that and I'm like, this is a cool opportunity for me to support you. This is a way to say, boom, I'm in. And so I simultaneously don't want to make things more complicated for myself as an artist, but I also, as a fan of other people's art, I feel the pull to want to like own pieces of their, of the experience and all that. So I'm trying to reconcile all that in my head, and I would love to hear, I'd love to just crack it open and to just talk merch, the good, the bad, the ugly, all the fun stuff. And I know there is a lot to talk about, but I don't want to pigeonhole it. I want to just kind of explore it. So there we go. Merch.
Yeah.
Ben, you and Anita have done some really cool stuff with Salt to the Sound merch in the past. I'd love to hear a little bit about maybe the brainchild behind it, but then also just like how that played out. And it's been a minute since you and I have talked merch stuff. I know that we've kind of picked brains on it a little bit before, but I'm not just curious about like, oh, you did this cool thing and that cool thing, but then also like, what kind of a shipping logistics nightmare did that become? Or maybe it was super smooth, or, like, do you guys have a lot of leftover stuff, or how did you combat that and all the things?
Yeah. So, I have mixed emotions about merch. Exactly as you say, as a fan, I think it's really powerful because you join with the artist in a way that is, I guess, increases that love that you have for the artist. And, as an artist myself, I have felt that when people have bought our merch, there's a kind of like, okay, they're real fans. They really care about what we're doing. And you see that even translating over to things like social media. A lot of people who've bought merch will then comment more and all those kind of things. So it's a really powerful tool, but just a kind of really great thing to do. That said, logistically, it is complex. And yeah, as just to kind of list off a few of the things we have done in the past. We've done a lot of CDs. We've done some things like tote bags and kind of fun little, more gimmicky kind of things like bamboo straws and little coasters and T-shirts we did one time. Pretty much all of those kind of more fun things we did with Kickstarter campaigns kind of 5, 6, 7 years ago. And Kickstarter is, again, one of those things you know, I have mixed feelings about. I don't love asking people for money in that way, but at the very same time, it creates a kind of community around your music or around an album launch that people are buying into what you're doing, which then translates into them being probably bigger fans of yours than they would have otherwise been. So I see it in a similar way to Merch, that there is that kind of space there where if you can do this kind of direct to fan thing, then there is a lot of power with that. But yeah, logistically, it can be a real nightmare if you don't outsource it. Now, we've never outsourced it. And so you end up spending a lot of time packaging, contacting, printing out labels, going to the post office, all of that kind of stuff. We've never done such kind of large quantities that we've ended up with like loads and loads and loads of garages full of merch or whatever. But, you know, I do have a stack of CDs here in the corner, like maybe 4 or 5 boxes full of CDs that we haven't sold. And that's fine. When you take it as a kind of business venture and you look at things like ROI and time spent, the ROI isn't quite there versus a lot of other activities you could be doing. But that's the immediate ROI. I'm not sure if you can put a number to a fan's value and their love for your music and what you're doing and kind of associate it with your time kind of thing. So yeah, mixed feelings, but definitely worth exploring.
Yeah, I love all that. And I'm completely with you. And again, it's not the idea of let's figure out how to jack up the numbers. Here's the increased, amount of revenue that shows up for Salt of the Sound or for We Dream of Eden. But more so, is there the ability to provide people with something that helps them identify with their level of fandom, if you will, with any of our monikers? And also, I just want to keep drawing it back to like, is there a way to do it artfully? Not to be perceived as cool or whatever. And I don't know if there's an answer, but I want, to be able to do something that genuinely serves the whole Dear Gravity ecosystem in a way that kind of ties it all together. I honestly have no idea. I just had a random thought right now. Like, I would love the world of one-offs, of exclusive music. Like, it kind of is completely shortcutted by the fact that physical media is near non-existent. Besides vinyls, I love the whole vinyl. If you're into vinyl, like I think that's a really cool thing. My wife and I had actually talked about kind of getting a vinyl console in one part of our house and having it feel half music corner, but also just it feels a little bit like an art installation. Like, okay, like that's the vinyl console. But I think beyond that, like I was just thinking, how cool would it be if we were able to generate like a cool, almost like a thicker, not a plastic credit card or gift card, but like beefy, almost like metal card that you could send someone that would unlock some like exclusive EP or album that is only available if you scan in the QR code or with this, and then it gets attached to your account and only your account on whatever streaming platform you're on. And that's that's near impossible, of course. And how the heck do you even begin to execute that? But yeah, I love the idea of releasing some kind of specific music and doing it in like a crafty or like an artful sort of way. For that to be kind of a lane of, you can dive in at a deeper level. But again, like with physical media being, a near zero sort of level, and you compound it by the fact that, none of us are doing a ton of live performances, where I think physical media might even make more sense in that lane, where people almost want a keepsake of sorts. Like, hey, I'm here. I'm not going to like listen to your CD, but like I'll pay $15 because I want to support, like that sort of thing. But yeah, the decentralizing of how people listen to music, on Amazon or on Deezer or on Spotify, on Apple Music, on Pandora, on, Tidal, it just goes on, and on YouTube Music, all the, 10 cent. It would have to be a solution across all the boards. And I mean, that's way, 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 way above my pay grade. But that's like the one thing that I would love to be able to do, is to try to provide people with like, hey, there's only a select few who get to hear this, and you're part of that group. And that's a really cool thing. Random thought that came to head on that. But Kirk, I would love to hear all thoughts that you have about all this stuff, because I'm talking in circles at this point.
Yeah, no, I'm just listening to everything. I can remember being on tour and like you set up your merch table and you try to do what you can, and that's like your gas money to help you get to the next place. And if you're really lucky, you have enough to like buy groceries. And the merch really was a lifeblood of touring, of being on the road, because you may have gotten a little bit of money from the venue, you might have gotten ticket sales, but a lot of times it was you're supporting this other band, and so that was kind of your thing. And this was kind of even before streaming was taking off. And it was like that t-shirt was more of just a way for them to support, but it was also, like you're saying, it was this physical representation of the moment of that time that they were together. And so it was a memento more than anything else. And I think in the streaming world, and especially in the non-touring world, you miss out on that momentum, that thing, that tangible thing. But I think if you could create that with a launch in a way that was intimate through some social media and things like that, maybe a live event or a hangout or something, you could possibly reintroduce that. So I think what I've seen some people do that I think is good is having it be tied to a launch of an album, an EP, a thing. And if you can make that launch more like an event, then you can kind of create that memory with it. The thing is that a album launch is only it's a one-time thing, whereas a tour, you have many stops along the way. But essentially a tour is usually the tour of this particular album. So they release the album and then they tour the album. And so they're doing lots of stops and meeting lots of people. And so how do you translate that into a season of meeting people and doing things? So it's almost, it's a larger question. The question is, how do you create these stops along the way in a virtual world? But I think if the system is there, as far as like the automation and the printing and the kind of the print on demand thing, for at least for some of the stuff would be good, as long as you can make sure the quality is good and the ethics of the product. I remember I didn't do a whole lot of research, but there was one company, I think it was called Ambient Inc. or something like that. And I really liked what they were doing. But every time I try to like think, I might do merch again, I just go into a tailspin of like the logistics and setting stuff up. But I think it probably is important to try to build that into the long-term vision of creating moments and creating mementos and creating these times where you're saying something, even with the image or something on the t-shirt or on the thing that people connect with.
But I think what you're also talking, or what we're also talking about, is how to create a closer connection with fans in a digital, primarily streaming world. And so, things like community-based platforms that you kind of control and merch as well. And then what people are doing with the NFT side of things and blockchain and all that, where, there's this kind of idea of how do you... I apparently so. I mean, I get occasional updates from people about who are doing it. And for me, I don't think it's ever made sense, but for the right audience, for the right people who are into it, I feel like having something that is scarce, something like merch or an NFT or whatever it is that isn't just available to the masses, exactly like you're saying, Mac, could be interesting. And not only could be interesting, it is really valuable in today's just kind of super fragmented and super kind of, you can just listen to everything everywhere space. And I think it looks different for everyone. I see creators on YouTube doing this in kind of interesting ways where they'll have their own, for example, Discords or their own platforms that people kind of engage in what they're doing. And, merch is often a part of that. You see artists doing similar things. Bandcamp subscriptions can be really powerful if done in the right way. Yeah. And of course, Patreon is a good example of that. And I feel like depending on who your audience is, kind of what their demographics are, kind of picking one and going for it and then introducing the merch into that platform would seem to be, at least from what I can see, the way things are going right now.
Well, and not even the way things going, but it's like back in the day you had fan clubs. I mean, in the 70s and 80s and 90s you had fan clubs. It was just all done with mailers. And so, I mean, that makes sense to where you would build a community and then you go from there.
Yeah, my wife is still part of the fan club of her favorite band. She pays however much per year to make sure that she knows all the stuff, and they still send out a physical, like a bonus CD every year. CD, man. Can't tell you the last time we've put it in a device, but it's kind of a cool keepsake. And like, man, I'm probably getting in my head about it a little bit, but like I've been to a handful of shows recently, and this is not a critique on inflation or on the post-COVID touring world or anything, but I am blown away that these artists are charging between $45 and $60 for a screen printed t-shirt that is almost just like the band name on the front, and on the back it's like, here's the list of cities, and you know, maybe a cool design or whatever. And I'd be like, why would I ever pay that? But there's people lined up left and right to do the thing. And again, like, I do not want this to come across as like we need to figure out how to generate more money. That's not the conversation around this that I want to have at all. But there is the acknowledging of that, like the opportunity has been given to people who appreciate your music to say, I appreciate it, and so therefore I want this thing. Like, I want to say I was at this experience. I want to, and kind of what you guys were already saying in other ways. But at that point, it's interesting that it almost doesn't even matter necessarily what the product is, right? Like that they're like, okay, it's a black t-shirt for $45, but you know what? I'm in. I was there. I was at that show. Like, what a cool experience. What a great time it was. And so, yeah, like, what does that look like for the world of what we do, where the vast majority of the music we create is streaming? And, you know, in that world, what does it look like to do something a little bit bespoke in a sense? And man, maybe it's not even merch as the starting point. And I know the whole world of like online concerts kind of started becoming a thing over COVID, and then it just kind of died out when people were like, okay, we're going to go back out in public again. But is there, like, if it was done really well, is there kind of a cool, like, one and done viewing opportunity that you could give people? And then within that viewing opportunity, maybe that's the opportunity to give those folks the chance at some exclusive merch as well, because those are the people who are saying like, oh, this is above the passive listening. Like, I'm in with this guy. I'm in with this girl. I love this stuff. Maybe there's something unique there. And again, I think, Ben, that plays really, really handily into the deepening of the relationship and the connection that there is there. Yeah, I'm just batting some stuff around in my head.
Yeah. Well, one thing that we kind of tested recently on Salt of the Sound. So Salt of the Sound, we do sell like a fair amount of CDs and merch and stuff.
Yeah.
Our audience typically skews a little bit older, and so CDs still kind of have a value for many people. But we sell, all of them are sold through Bandcamp. Follow us on Bandcamp, buy them when they want to, whatever. But I trialed for about 6 months having the Shopify link into Spotify and put all our CDs kind of available there.
Yeah.
How many did we sell?
Zero.
And I think what's really interesting about that is that the people, and it's not that kind of core listeners are not on Spotify, they are not associating Spotify with a place to deepen that relationship.
Sure.
Whereas something like Bandcamp, especially if they're either a subscriber or kind of regular downloader of your music or whatever, that might be the place that they're like, no, this is where I go to support the artist. Spotify, I just have on in the background, and hey, I like this album, so I'm going to play it when I'm kind of doing whatever. So I do think there is this kind of stage of, yeah, sure, you know, Spotify and Amazon and others have a really crucial role in what it means to be an artist, especially in terms of awareness of our music, but not necessarily in the engagement and kind of the community side of what it is to be a real true fan of that person. I think we know this as well as fans of music. Spotify isn't typically the place we go if we really want to kind of connect with the artist. We'll go to their socials, or we'll go to their Bandcamp or whatever. And so just kind of, folding that into this conversation, I feel like is important. It's like, what is that place that we want as artists, our kind of core fans, to go almost as a destination to increase their level of engagement with us and our music?
Yeah. Just something that interests me. And again, like, you guys can call me out on this if you feel like I'm not actually telling the truth here, but my pursuit is not in trying to do things different than other people. The pursuit is not, I need to look cool or that I need to prove something, but rather like I just get interested by the stuff that doesn't exist yet. I think that there is something really beautiful about just kind of putting your neck out there and trying a thing that doesn't really have a trail blazed in front of it. And you're just gonna, grab the like, okay, let's just start chopping it down and doing it. And it may be sloppy. It may not be perfectly put together the first round, but we're gonna try it. Yeah, I guess all that to say, I get excited about the possibility of like an online concert thing, very similar to the merch stuff. To make a move, I am not interested in making a move and adding layers of complexity to what we do to all of a sudden like earn this much more per month or this much more per year, in revenue or whatever. Like that is just not a pursuit. And granted, there will be revenue that comes in from any one of these decisions and then, that can feed back into itself and support more and all that. Like, I'm not saying money is bad, but I guess what I'm trying to say is money is not a motivator for me in this. And I want to just continue to explore. And I think we have been, and I want to go at it a little bit more, but to explore it from the idea of like, how does this serve the artist fan connection? How does this become something that's special instead of a cash grab? What other beautiful, really brainstorming session, like what other cool things can be brought into the world that you would walk away from that and just be like, I am glad that this world has that in it. Like I would be sad if we had to go back to a world where that particular thing was not in it.
I think one thing to kind of just maybe add on to that, or as a kind of slight tangent, is thinking about it as well as gifts. Like what would people want to buy of yours to gift? I again, just speaking from my own experience, but probably over the years, 50% of what we've sold has been around the Christmas season. Now, granted, quite a bit of our music is Christmas related, so people do obviously buy a little bit more around then. Often people want to buy the CDs as gifts for other people for Christmas. Yeah. And I think that it doesn't have to be Christmas, but gifting is an important part of connection. And if someone loves your music so much that they want to, give a part of that to someone else, what does that look like? And how can, we enable that? Because otherwise all that people are doing is like sharing a link. Here's this guy's Spotify. Isn't it cool? Go check it out. There are other ways of doing that. And I feel like that could be also part of the conversation in terms of the type of merchandise that is offered.
I'm in.
I remember there's this one guy, it wasn't really a merch thing, I don't think, but to promote his record, he mailed all of these people a Walkman, like an old school cassette, like with the cassette in it. But he didn't even put his name on any of the package because he didn't want the people to be like, oh, it's this guy, so now I'm listening, I must like pay attention, and I'm skewed of how I need to think about this because it's this famous person or whatever.
Yeah.
And so they just listen to it just like, what is this? Like, I've never even, I loved that idea of this kind of physical Walkman. They plug their headphones in and they have a tape and they listen to the record, And I don't know how much Walkmans are these days, but it's like, you want to talk about, an exclusive experience.
Yeah.
You could literally, you could do like 20 minutes of improvised ambient goodness or whatever and put it on a cassette and print 20 of them and literally buy Walkmans and say, this is what it is,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Something like that could be pretty cool. And then all those people have Walkmans because they bought the first ones. And then you can follow up with, here's another tape. And now that if they get the Walkman the first time, now they get all these new tapes every time they come out or whatever, or first dibs on the first 100 I make or whatever, So something like that could be, that could be pretty cool actually.
I like that. Yeah. Tape of the month club. Crazy. I'm staring at, I have a coffee table in my studio and I'm staring at the coffee table book for the illustrious Prince. And, I'm from Minneapolis. So Prince, the Minneapolis guy, his domain, Paisley Park, is only about a half hour from our house. And his whole place is now a museum, which is crazy. And still a functioning studio, which is also crazy. But, when we were leaving, they feed you through the store and most of the store was tchotchkes and all that stuff. But I found like this coffee table book that I was just like, oh, that is so cool. Like all the really striking images, and it's got a lot of the details behind what that looks like. And And yeah, it was immediately a no-brainer when we walked. I was like, I'm of course buying that, and that's gonna go sit down in my. And you know, I may be more of the exact person who they knew was gonna buy the book or whatever. But yeah, I love. I mean, it's so you guys, like, even Kirk, like the Walkman idea, like that really does speak to almost this unique, like building this mystique, and there is some kind of like coolness around that. I think maybe part of the way that, and I'm just sort of exploring this right now, maybe part of the reason I'm like weirdly defaulting to like coffee table books and like drink coasters and stuff or whatever is like, maybe part of it is because I feel like that's how our music is experienced in a lot of senses, where people will just put it on and it just becomes a part of their life. It becomes a part of their day. You know, when people say like I've got you with me in the mornings, you know, and I'm doing this, or I've got you with me at nights when, you know, when I'm attempting to find some peace or to pray or to whatever. And so maybe part of me subconsciously is just trying to lean into like, how do we lend aid to that? And I think it's that balancing act, right? Where like there is the opportunity to deepen a relationship there, but even more so, like the last thing in that sense, maybe it's not about like dear gravity coasters or coasters is just I'm just gonna use that as like whatever random example right now. But I feel like it almost becomes less about me or less about you or less about the artist and more so about maybe how can I provide something else, you know, just within your life experience that just continues to nudge it the direction that I think the music is nudging you, and still at the same time creates a little bit of mystique and does kind of that cool thing, but not, you know, so on the nose as like, here's my new logo and it's stamped everywhere and it's, you know, just this big thing. I think this is going to be a roundtable episode where I'm going to leave with a lot more questions than answers but in a good way. I feel like I'm getting poked a little bit. I'm getting stirred up, and I think there could be some cool stuff to come from it. At the end of the day, Kirk, if you were just put on point and someone said, would you ever consider putting out merch if you had to do it right now, yes or no, and why? Like if you just had to make a hard and fast answer, and I don't want to hold you to this, but just like from a gut level right now, if you had to just completely pick one or the other, what would it be?
It would be yes. I mean, yeah. It would be yes, because I love the idea of something physical that represents the music. And I love the idea of people being like, I would love the music so much that I want to have it on my t-shirt or have it on my thing. Like it means a lot, you know, so it's special. So I love the practicality of it overwhelms me. The ROI of it underwhelms me.
Yeah.
But I love the idea of having something physical and people wanting to have it. So I would say yes. It would have to be the right system and the right product.
Ben, this is when we start talking about having a stateside distribution center for all ambient, and any artist that wants to just send their stuff to the central location, and it all gets handled by our faithful employee in said central location. And
exactly.
Let's shoot for the moon, I think, boys.
Yep. It's the one kind of sticking point a lot of the time with all of the merch conversation is the packing, the distribution, the kind of the time that takes away from then actually creating your own music.
Yeah,
you know, because it's not an insignificant amount of time that one spends, especially if you are packaging a lot of things and doing this as quite a regular part of your kind of work week.
Yeah,
but I think it's worth it. I think on balance, it's worth it with the right thing that feels special enough and kind of exciting enough to people and connects, exactly as you're saying, Mike, connects intentionally enough with your music that it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, I'm with you. For the sake of time, I think we're going to call it on this one. And maybe the listeners are going to feel kind of the same way that I do right now, where things feel a little bit more up in the air than they did when the episode even started. But I think that's probably a good thing. Like, if anything, for this to stir conversation in each of our hearts and to get us to, you know, just to maybe think a little bit outside the box or that sort of thing. But even more so to maybe just set aside the conversation of how do I add more money to this whole thing that's happening, and instead focus it on like, what can I do that comes alongside this music? What can I do? And there can be so many cool answers to that. It can be something that helps draw more attention to your name, or it could be something that supports a live performance, or it could be something that, you know, maybe there's just a lot of really cool visual stuff that you are creating, you know, alongside your music and to really do some cool stuff there. I think that in the midst of the questions that we're asking ourselves, I think there's a lot of opportunity for people to just be inspired. And yeah, if you're anything like me, once you throw something in the marinating tank, you give it a couple days or you give it a couple weeks or months, and sometimes something really cool pops out after, just being in there and just kind of brining. And then it finds its, oh, that's it, light bulb, that moment at some point. But yeah, I'm hoping that in a handful of months, we can maybe just revisit or just touch on some revisited merch stories. And you'll be curious to see what kind of steps maybe that we're taking or that we can encourage each other and just try some stuff. I want to try some stuff. Even if it fails at this point, I feel like I probably need to just try some more stuff and not haphazardly, not like, okay, well, there goes a thing and good luck. But to try something that I'm really proud of. And again, like ROI has to be a different conversation than just like what money shows up from this thing, but rather like what purpose does this serve the bigger story? And yeah.
We'll look forward to a Walkman in the mail then.
Yeah. Hey, man. Let's and maybe if nothing else, it's just the idea of all doing some kind of crazy concert. The live experience could be a really cool thing. I don't know. A lot of logistics there. And I think I was saying, maybe I didn't even finish my sentence before, but the idea of, I think the ease of entry into the music world is great. And I love that for a lot of people, but also it then begs the question like, well, what do you do now to rise? How do you find the cream of the crop? And I'm not saying that everything that takes a lot of hard work is just find something that takes a lot of hard work. And then all of a sudden you'll be, you will find success in that. But I think that there is something, and maybe coming full circle, Kirk, coming back to you in practicing your instruments and putting in the hours on that. It can be the sort of thing that maybe feels like the needle's not moving as quickly as you want it to or whatever. But at the same time, think of how many people just never, ever, ever, ever say yes because of that very feeling that you're experiencing. Like how many people are like, that's just too much. So I'm not going to do it.
Right.
And so I think if nothing else, this is getting me to the place where I'm saying like, I don't think I want to say no to this anymore simply because it's going to take work and it's going to take time. It's probably going to take some failures. It's probably going to take some things not going the way that I thought it was going to go. But I think there's enough potential value just to the overall art of it all that I think it's time to rip off the Band-Aid and do it a little bit. So let's do it, guys. Let's have some fun.
Dig it.
Sounds great.
Let's do it.
Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your hearts. Thank you for making every single person who listens to this podcast a better person because they got to hear what you had to say. I don't say that as a silly little platitude. I say that because I mean it. I'm grateful for you guys. I'm glad that we're in this journey together. And by all means, the roundtable is just a great time for us, not only to just get to talk through stuff, but also like, man, I'm just reminded of how brilliant and wonderful people we get to do this with. And so, yeah, love you guys. Appreciate it. And this is really great.
Yeah, man. Thanks.
Thanks, Mike.
Enjoyed it.
Thank you again for listening to the All Ambient podcast. Make sure that you subscribe to the podcast so you can catch every conversation we have with all these incredible people who share the same passion. I'm looking forward to the next time. I hope that you are too. Can't wait to see you then. And until then, have an incredible day. Here's hoping that this music and the heart behind it makes your day and life that much better. See you next time.